Let's take a look at some final instructions for your business finance paper. And this was posted in the content, and I would hope that you would take a look at this, please. First, I've taken a look at your outline, hopefully by now, and also your introductory and conclusion paragraphs, and hopefully giving you some response. Actually, as of today, I have not, but I plan to do that here in the next day or two. Okay, so it's time to start writing that final paper. Okay, so question I always get: how long is it supposed to be? About 5 pages. Okay, at 1 to 1.5 spacing. So, you know, you get done at 6 pages, you're probably going to make it 1 1/4 spacing or something like that, right? Okay, it shouldn't be any longer than 5 pages, and you know, preferably 11 or 12 font, something big enough for me to read. You should use and cite sources. I'm not concerned about the format of the citations. It doesn't have to be APA or MLA or whatever. Just make sure that you cite it. And websites are perfectly appropriate sources. You may find little news articles or clips that you may want to include information from in your paper. It's perfectly appropriate to cite those, and just the websites are fine. It's due no later than the last Sunday before finals week. These take me quite a while to read and grade, so as you go through, remember the basics. In your introduction, tell me what you're going to tell me. Right? You have to summarize the main points of your paper. The body of the paper you're going to tell me. Right? And the conclusion, once again, you have to summarize the main points of the paper. Tell me what you told me. Okay? It's going to look like this, right? You're going to have the introduction. You're going to tell me about the history of the company, the industry it competes in, and its strategy, and you're going to provide a detailed financial analysis. This portion should dominate your paper, okay? It's worth by far the most in terms of grading, because this is a finance class, okay? So these can be brief, you know, paragraph or two, perhaps for each of those, but this should be lengthy. Okay. Surest way to get a D is to recite, just simply recite facts and figures. I think I mentioned one time I had a person turn in a paper where they just copied and pasted information from I think it was from FINRA or Morningstar. You know, they took this and copied and pasted it and put it in there. No comments, no nothing. Okay. That's probably an F, okay. But folks that might go through and simply, you know, and I'm using McCormick here as an example. Geez, revenue increased from $4.2 billion in 2014 to $5.4 billion in 2018. Cost of revenue. I've had folks turn in papers just exactly like that, okay. That's not to say that you might not mention that. Geez, McCormick has had increasing revenue since 2014 from $4.2 billion to $5.4 billion, caused by, okay, they had a big jump in, you know, 2017 because, and actually I'll talk about that a little bit when we get to McCormick. Okay, so those things, sometimes you need to tell me a little bit. You know, I expect that, but tell me the why. In other words, there should be not much that's in your paper that doesn't have a why behind it. Okay. Find information that isn't readily visible that is or might be important for an investor. Well, let's take a look. Kind of go through, hopefully, here again. I've got McCormick up here from the FINRA site, and how would I examine this in order to write a paper or make an investment decision? You know, sure, I'd look at the revenues, okay, and that's pretty good growth and pretty good jump here, right? You know, 4.2 to 4.3 to 4.4. Ooh, all of a sudden we jump up to 4.8, and then to 5.4. So the last couple of years we've had a pretty big jump. I wonder why. Okay. Cost of revenue, on the other hand, it's gone down, you know, pretty good, right? Meaning their gross profit then's increased, and those are big positives. Again, I want to look that up and try to figure out why. But as I start going through this, maybe I just make some notes here, okay, as I'm going through this, and that's what I'm going to do. But look at that. We had some restructuring and merger charges that we didn't have before. So note, 2017, restructure. I need to figure out what happened there, right? So my operating income took a nice little jump in 2017 and a bigger jump in 2018. Probably has to do with these gross margins, might have to do with this merger and or acquisition, okay? Look at my interest expense. Wow. Almost doubled there. I'm going to have to take a look at that, right? Note, interest expense, 2018, almost doubled. Why? Okay. Provision for income tax. We had some things going on with their income tax. Might be tax law. My guess is it also probably had something to do with this merger or acquisition that they had going on, right? So you see, just by a few points here that I'm looking at, I'm kind of starting to figure out that something happened that was kind of major with this company. I don't want to ignore the stuff over here, but something happened, and I need to take a look at that. Look at the jump, okay, in earnings per share. Wow, it's just clicking along, a little dip there actually, but clicked back nicely. Bitty increase there, but wow, look at that jump, okay. Trailing 12 months now has gone back down a little bit more reasonable, but that probably has to do with this income tax being a negative here. It really jumped up their income. I need to take a look at those things, right? Let's go back again. I was worried about that, that interest cost there. What happened? Well, let's go down and look at this, and I'm going to switch this back to dollars. You can make this switch here, and sometimes for me it makes more sense to look at percentages. Sometimes it makes sense to look at dollars. So long-term debt, about $1 billion, oh my goodness, look at that. It went up to $4.4 billion. Deferred tax liabilities might have something to do with that tax calculation that we saw on the prior page, right? $1 billion, okay? So we had some things going on here, right? We increased even our current liabilities a little bit. So let's jump up and look at our assets. Look at that goodwill. What a huge jump, and also intangible assets. So what does that mean? Goodwill is the amount that when you're purchasing a business, say, it's the amount that you purchase that business for that is over and above the accounting value. Remember, we have depreciation, we have those types of things, and we have assets that actually appreciate. And so goodwill is the difference between what you pay for something and what the accounting value is, and obviously that was a big number there. What are intangible assets? That might be things like patents, okay? Patents or copyrights, those types of things are called intangible assets. And so obviously McCormick had something here big that happened in 2017. When it happened, I don't know. It doesn't look like, when I come back to the income statement, its interest expense jumped up some in 2017, but mostly in 2018. So my guess is when it happened was towards the end or second half of 2017. Not that important, okay? But we can kind of make some estimates or guesses based on that. Here's another thing, a lot of folks are going to find when you're looking at these shares outstanding, and this is an important thing to look at because a lot of companies have really been buying back a lot of shares. In this case, look at that. They maybe bought back a little bit, and all of a sudden it jumped up there. More shares outstanding. Well, what probably happened? Again, you need to look this up. It's going to be in the annual report. They're going to talk about this one quite a bit for this particular company. But what probably happened is they made a purchase of another company. I'm pretty sure in this case it was French's Mustard. Actually, I have an idea that that's what it was. They probably borrowed a decent amount of money to make that purchase, but they also maybe had to issue some stock. Okay, so it might have been a stock in cash purchase. And that happens. Some purchases are all stock, some purchases are all cash. In this case, it looks like a combination. Man, I just rattled on there for 5 minutes about stuff that's going on with this company. Just by looking at this here, I'm able to make a lot of assumptions because I'm very used to looking at these things, and maybe I've even got a little background or studied this company a little bit. Okay, but the reason I have that is because I've looked up news articles, and I've also maybe gone and looked at the annual reports and whatnot to try to figure out what's going on. Okay. The other thing, if you have questions about what's going on, let me know. I love looking at these things and trying to figure it out. So for sure, let me know. Okay. So that's kind of how I go about, doing that. Again, I might make some notes, boom, write them down, open up the annual reports, just Google it. What happened, or acquisition or merger, McCormick, merger acquisition, 2017. I'll bet you I find a lot of articles about that. Okay. Okay, that kind of goes over that paragraph. Don't just copy and paste from the annual report. Short quotes are great, right? So if you get some stuff in the annual report that you feel is very good, go ahead and put that in there. But make sure you put it in quotes and make sure you cite it. Okay. Don't snip or copy graphs, charts, or tables. I think I told you how that's happened in the past, and paste it into your work. Now, that said, if there's a small chart or a graph that you think is absolutely critical to make a point, that might be okay. But keep it small and keep it relevant. The basis of your report is to do analysis. It's to look at those financial statements and try to draw information out from that you might use as an investor, but also as a CFO. Somebody that's a corporate financial officer, right? Those are important things to know. That's pretty much it for that. I hope that helps you out some. I'll tell you what, for those of you that have listened to this, I'll give you a small amount of extra credit if you can tell me what year it was that the Orioles won the World Series. I believe it was 1983. So 1983 would be the answer. And you can just put that when you submit your deal. That just tells me that you actually listened to this all the way to the end. So put 1983, not on the paper, but in that submission box of their notes. So thanks for listening, and have a good day.